Okay, let's dive right in. We're heading, metaphorically speaking, to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, you think sun, sand, maybe some quiet relaxation. But according to our source material today, the vibe is, well, a bit different right now.
Yeah, it sounds quite intense, actually. We're looking at an article from DistrictDrama.com. It's by Jason Golding, just published yesterday, May 24th, 2025.
And the title alone tells you a lot. Get this, Rehoboth is ground zero. The great DC Twink Implosion has us gasping and giggling.
Gasping and giggling. It definitely signals a certain tone, not your average seaside report.
Exactly. So our plan today is to really unpack what this article calls the DC Twink Implosion. We want to understand, what it is, what the article claims is causing it, how it's supposedly playing out there in Rehoboth.
Right, and maybe what it reveals about like a particular community dynamic, especially with social media being so central.
The article uses some really evocative language. It talks about grabbing iced coffee's extra shot naturally and feeling like the whole Rehoboth social season is basically just detonated.
Detonated, yeah, not eased in.
No.
He calls the place Rehomo, the article does, and positions it as the, quote, epicenter of a gay melodrama. So, yeah, high drama.
Okay, so this implosion, what is it according to Golding? The article describes it as a kind of perfect storm. Think summer dreams hitting the hard rocks of reality.
Mm-hmm. And he paints this picture of the atmosphere, sea salt, sunscreen, but also this undercurrent of tension, Grindr messages flying, Instagram stories that might be a genuine share, or maybe
a passive-aggressive jab.
exactly, a desperate cry for validation, as the article puts it. It sounds like social media is really fueling the fire here.
So what are the triggers? What kicked off this magnificent mess, as Golding calls it?
Well, he points to a few things. First, just the sheer number of DC gays all on PTO, packed into one relatively small beach town.
Right, that concentration.
Yeah, and the article notes this mixes ambition, insecurity, and carefully constructed nonchalance, all very close together.
I can see how that could get volatile, especially when you add summer flings into the mix.
Oh, definitely. And the article gives this, perfect little vignette. Poor Kevin, name changed, obviously.
Of course.
Apparently, he dramatically announces on threads, that he's leaving DC forever.
Wow, okay, why?
Because his, quote, situationship.
The classic situationship. Always fertile ground for drama.
Right. His situationship was spotted with a Hill staffer at Blue Moon.
Ooh, a Hill staffer. That adds a very DC layer of, status anxiety to the beach drama.
Totally. The article just calls it tragic, darling, simply tragic. Just shows how that DC hierarchy kind of travels with everyone.
It really does. Are there other triggers mentioned?
Yeah, a couple more. Whispers about competition for, those really sought-after Fire Island sharehouse spots. Apparently that drama is crossing state lines now.
Interesting. So broader social competition leading to Rehoboth.
Seems like it. And then just the basics. Hookups going wrong and becoming public knowledge super fast. Faster than you can say Diego's happy hour.
That's fast. The speed of information or gossip in that environment sounds crucial.
And the article also mentions relationships that were maybe, very publicly documented on Instagram.
The insta-couple curse.
Kind of. Now they're crumbling under the pressure of constant public scrutiny. It's like the performance aspect just couldn't hold up.
So the article sums all this up dramatically as a digital age Greek tragedy played out in board shorts and designer sunglasses.
Quite the phrase. He calls the whole scene a multifaceted gem of gay chaos. It's definitely leaning into the dramatic, maybe even the campy framing.
Okay, so that's the article's take on the chaos. But what about people who actually live there? Does it get a local perspective?
It does. It introduces Gerald Cummings. He's described as Rehoboth's very own oracle, a spry 67-year-old queer resident.
An oracle. Okay, where does the oracle weigh in?
Golding catches him outside Egg during brunch. Peak Rehoboth scene, right?
Oh, perfect.
And Gerald apparently delivers the line of the week. He says, I don't mind the explosion, but the implosion is a bit much.
Ooh, I like that distinction. The explosion versus the implosion. What does the article suggest he means by that?
Well, the interpretation is that the explosion, the annual arrival of all the gays descending on Rehoboth that's expected, it's almost part of the town's summer identity, maybe even celebrated. The energy, the influx.
Right, that makes sense. It's the normal rhythm. So the implosion is what feels different this year.
Exactly. According to Gerald via the article, this implosion is more like an inward collapse of social circles. It's the quiet seething, the very public meltdowns.
So less about the arrival and more about the internal dynamics just fraying.
Yeah, it feels more concentrated, more personal, how the article puts it. Like the drama is turning inward this time.
Okay, a bit much feels like an understatement based on that description.
Definitely. And Gerald's quote apparently became the unofficial motto of the week.
I can see why.
Yeah.
So given this intense atmosphere, does the article offer any advice for navigating this blast radius?
It does, yeah. Kind of tongue-in-cheek, but maybe practical. A sort of survival guide.
Okay, let's hear it. Tip number 1.
Hydrate. But specifically with water, occasionally. Slight laugh. Okay.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the prevalence of maybe other beverages.
Precisely. The article mentions tears and cocktails being dehydrating. So water sometimes. Seems basic, but important.
Fair enough. What's next?
Tip 2 is very 2025. Curate your misery.
Curate your misery.
Yeah. Basically, if you're going to have a public meltdown, you might as well make sure the lighting's good because, quote, content is king.
Wow. Okay. Leaning right into the social media performance aspect again.
Totally.
Yeah.
Tip 3, choose your brunch battles wisely.
Ah, brunch, the ultimate battleground.
Right. Is giving that side eye across the patio really worth it? The article muses and then concludes, probably.
Probably worth it. Okay. Noted. Any others?
4th, practice strategic dissociation.
Strategic dissociation. How does one do that?
The suggestion involves floating away on a cloud of Aperol spritz-fueled indifference, maybe while poolside at Aqua.
Okay, so tactical escapism via cocktails. Got it.
Seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
And the final tip is more philosophical, maybe. Remember, it's just a week, mostly. Perspective. This too shall pass.
Exactly. Soon enough, you'll be back in D.C. complaining about the humidity or, bad hinge dates. The Rehoboth drama, however intense, is temporary.
That's actually kind of reassuring. So after the survival guide, how does the article wrap this all up? What's the final takeaway on the great DC Twink Implosion?
It reflects on the bigger picture. It suggests that even with all the messiness, all the drama, it's actually a kind of testament to our vibrant, dramatic, and utterly human community.
So finding something positive or at least vital in the chaos.
Yeah, it leans into that. It quotes this line, "We live, we love, we fight over who saw that muscle daddy on Jacked first."
Okay, specific. And captures a certain kind of community dynamic, I suppose.
It does, and it frames this whole implosion as, quote, just another chapter in our collective glitter-dusted story.
Glitter-dusted story. That phrasing, again, reinforces that specific tone. Dramatic, maybe a little camp.
Absolutely. It circles back to Gerald's point. Maybe it is a bit much, but the article concludes it's also undeniably fabulous. It seems to embrace the spectacle.
Right. So to recap for everyone listening, we've walked through this DistrictDrama article by Jason Golding, looking at his take on the DC Twink Implosion happening in Rehoboth Beach.
Mm-hmm. We covered the scene he sets, the triggers he identifies, like the DC concentration, the situationship drama, the social media pressure.
Yeah, and that local perspective from Gerald Cummings, distinguishing the usual explosion from this year's implosion. Plus those survival tips.
And the article's final framing, seeing this intense drama not just as messy, but as something vibrant, human, maybe even fabulous.
So why dive deep into this specific drama in this specific place? I mean, for you listening, maybe it's a window into how communities, especially tightly knit ones in seasonal spots, navigate conflict today.
Right, and how public versus private lives get blurred, especially with social media amplifying everything. It's a very contemporary kind of social dynamic playing out.
Definitely. And it leaves us with a final thought to chew on, based on the article's perspective. Golding frames all this intense, maybe even messy social drama as both overwhelming, a bit much, and undeniably fabulous, part of a glitter-dusted story.
Yeah, it raises the question, what does it mean when a community's internal conflicts become such a public spectacle?
And is there really, as the article seems to suggest, some kind of value or even a strange sort of beauty in that public drama? Is this implosion, this messy chapter, just as much a part of the community's identity, its story, as the celebratory summer explosion is? Something to think about.